The broadcast, the red ships, came from the dark space between stars. They moved like slow metal clouds across the sky of New Geneva, blocking out the sun with their massive hulls. The colonists below stopped their daily work and looked up. Children pointed at the strange vessels while their parents felt cold fear creep into their hearts. Captain Sarah Martinez stood on the observation deck of the colony's main building. She watched through her binoculars as the alien ships took positions around their world. There were 12 of them, each one bigger than the largest human ship ever built. Their hulls were smooth and dark red, like dried blood under the pale morning light. "Send a message to Earth," Sarah told her communication officer. "Tell them we have visitors. Big ones." The message would take 12 hours to reach Earth. Sarah hoped they would have 12 hours. The aliens did not answer human attempts to communicate. They simply hung in space above New Geneva like waiting vultures. For 6 hours, nothing happened. The colonists went about their business, but everyone kept looking up at the red ships. Some people started packing their belongings. Others checked their weapons, though everyone knew human guns would be useless against alien technology. Then the aliens acted. Blue beams shot down from the ships. They did not burn or destroy. Instead, they created walls of energy that trapped groups of people in glowing cages. The beams moved across the colony like nets, gathering humans in groups of hundreds and thousands. People tried to run, but the energy walls moved faster than any human could. Sarah found herself trapped with 50 other colonists in the main square. The blue walls hummed with power. When someone touched them, they felt like touching lightning. The person would fall back, shaking but alive. The aliens wanted them alive. Above them, smaller ships came down from the big vessels. These were different from the motherships. They looked like giant insects made of metal, with long, thin legs and glowing eyes. When they landed, creatures came out. The aliens were tall and thin, about 8 feet high. Their skin was gray-green and looked wet. They had 4 arms and 2 legs, and their heads were shaped like triangles. Their eyes were huge and black, like the eyes of deep-sea fish. When they moved, they made clicking sounds with their mouths. The aliens carried weapons that looked like silver sticks. When they pointed these weapons at humans, the people could not move. Their bodies became stiff like statues, but their minds stayed awake. They could see and hear everything, but they could not even blink. The aliens moved through the trapped colonists like farmers checking cattle. They made notes on strange devices and spoke to each other in voices that sounded like breaking glass. Sometimes they would point at a human and make what might have been laughter. For 3 days, the aliens kept the humans trapped. They gave them water and food that tasted like metal but nothing else. They did not hurt anyone, but they did not explain what they wanted either. The humans could only wait and watch as more alien ships arrived in orbit. On the 4th day, everything changed. The aliens set up strange devices around the colony. These machines were tall and thin, like metal trees with no leaves. At the top of each one was a crystal that glowed with white light. The aliens worked on these machines for hours, connecting them with cables and checking displays on their control panels. When they finished, one of the aliens stepped forward. It held a device that looked like a metal flower. When it spoke into this device, its words came out in perfect human language. "People of this world," the alien said. Its voice was cold and empty. "You are watching the end of your species. We are the Zephyrian Empire. We have ruled this part of space for 300 years. We have destroyed 67 different species that thought they could exist in our territory." The alien walked among the trapped humans as it spoke. Its black eyes looked at them like they were insects. "Your kind has spread to 17 worlds without our permission. This cannot continue. Today we will show the galaxy what happens to species that do not know their place. Your deaths will teach others to respect Zephyrian power." Sarah felt sick. Around her, other colonists started to cry or pray. Some cursed the aliens, but their voices were small and weak compared to the aliens' amplified words. "But first," the alien continued, "we will share this moment with all intelligent life in this sector of space. 63 different species will watch as we remove the human infection from the galaxy. They will learn. They will remember. They will never make the mistake your kind has made." The crystal devices began to glow brighter. Sarah realized they were transmission equipment. The aliens were going to broadcast the killing of New Geneva to dozens of worlds across space. The alien raised its weapon toward the first group of trapped humans. There were about 2,000 people in that group, including many children. Sarah could see the terror in their faces. "Let the galaxy witness," the alien said. This is what happens to inferior species that dare to expand beyond their small world. The weapon fired. It was not like a human gun or laser. Instead, it shot a wave of green energy that passed through the blue walls like they were not there. When the energy touched the humans, they simply stopped existing. They did not burn or fall down. They just became empty space, as if they had never been there at all. The alien announced the number. 2,000 humans eliminated. It moved to the next group. Sarah watched in horror as the alien worked through the colony. Group by group, the weapon erased the colonists from existence. The alien announced each death count like it was reading a shopping list. 5,000, 8,000, 12,000. Other aliens moved through the colony with recording devices, making sure every angle was captured for the broadcast. They wanted the galaxy to see everything. They wanted other species to understand the price of defying the Zephyrian Empire. The alien with the weapon never hurried. It took time between each shot, explaining to its audience how weak humans were, how easy they were to kill. It pointed out human anatomy and laughed at their primitive technology. It promised that Earth would be next and that all human worlds would share the same fate. Sarah closed her eyes, but she could still hear the announcements. 20,000, 30,000, 50,000. The numbers climbed higher and higher. When her group's turn came, Sarah looked up at the alien. Its black eyes showed no emotion, no regret, no anger. To this creature, killing 9 million humans was just another day's work. This is for the galaxy to see, the alien said, pointing its weapon at Sarah's group. This is what happens when inferior life forms forget their place in the universe. The last thing Sarah heard was the alien's voice announcing, 9 million humans eliminated. The cleansing of New Geneva is complete. The transmission ended. Across 63 worlds, millions of alien beings had watched the complete destruction of a human colony. The Zephyrian Empire had sent its message. Humans were weak. Humans could be erased. Humans were not worthy of space. The red ships left New Geneva's orbit, leaving behind only empty buildings and the silence of a dead world. The aliens were satisfied with their work. They had shown the galaxy the price of challenging Zephyrian rule, but the transmission had reached one more world than they had planned. 12 hours after the broadcast ended, the signal reached Earth. And on Earth, 9 billion humans watched their people die. The Zephyrians had made their point. Now humanity would make theirs. The fury awakens. The signal reached Earth during the morning hours in Geneva, Switzerland. The communication stations picked up the transmission from deep space and began processing it automatically. At first, the technicians thought it was just routine colonial communications. New Geneva sent regular updates about mining operations and population growth. But this was different. Dr. James Walsh was drinking his coffee when his computer screen flashed red. He was the head of Earth's Deep Space Communications Center, and he had never seen this particular warning before. The computer was telling him that an unknown alien transmission was being broadcast on human colonial frequencies. "That's impossible," Walsh muttered. He called his assistant. "Mary, come look at this. Something's wrong with the system." Mary Chen was a young communication specialist. She looked at the screen and checked the computer readings twice. "Sir, this isn't a malfunction. We're really receiving an alien signal. And it's using our language." Walsh felt cold fear in his stomach. "Put it on the main screen. Alert the World Defense Council immediately." The transmission began to play. Walsh and Chen watched in growing horror as the Zephyrian alien appeared on screen and began its announcement. When the alien started killing the colonists, Chen ran from the room to be sick. Walsh forced himself to keep watching. As the head of communications, he had to see everything. Within 20 minutes, every major government on Earth had been alerted. The transmission was being broadcast simultaneously to communication centers in Washington, Moscow, Beijing, London, and 50 other major cities. World leaders watched from their secure bunkers as 9 million humans were murdered for alien entertainment. President Maria Santos of the United Earth Coalition was in a meeting about trade agreements when her aide burst into the room. "Madam President, you need to see this right now. We're under attack." Santos thought the aide meant Earth was being invaded. She was not prepared for what she saw on the screen. As she watched the aliens eliminate group after group of colonists, her hands began to shake with rage. "How long until this transmission reaches other governments?" she asked. It already has, Madam President. Every major nation is watching this right now. Santos picked up her secure phone and began making calls. The first was to General Marcus Webb, head of Earth's Space Defense Force. The second was to Dr. Sarah Kim, Earth's leading expert on alien biology. The third was to every other world leader she could reach. By the time the transmission ended, something unprecedented was happening on Earth. For the first time in human history, every nation on the planet was united by the same emotion: pure, burning rage. General Webb was in his office at Luna Station when he received the president's call. He watched the transmission on his personal screen while Santos spoke to him over the secured line. "General, I want every ship we have ready for combat within 48 hours, Santos said. Her voice was steady, but Webb could hear the anger underneath. "I want our best scientists working on ways to kill these things, and I want to know everything we can learn from this transmission." "Understood, Madam President." "What are our rules of engagement?" "There are no rules, General. These creatures just murdered 9 million of our people and broadcast it to the galaxy. I want them extinct." Webb had been a soldier for 30 years. He had fought in the water wars, the resource conflicts, and the colonial rebellions, but he had never heard a president of the United Earth Coalition order the extinction of an entire species. "Yes, ma'am," he said. "It will be done." Dr. Sarah Kim received her call while she was teaching a class on xenobiology at the Tokyo Science Institute. She had spent her entire career studying the possibility of alien life. She had written papers about peaceful contact and mutual understanding between species. Now she was being asked to find ways to kill aliens as efficiently as possible. Kim watched the transmission 3 times, taking notes each viewing. She studied every frame that showed the Zephyrian aliens, their weapons, their ships, and their technology. By the 4th viewing, she was no longer thinking like a scientist seeking knowledge. She was thinking like a hunter studying prey. "I need every xenobiology expert on Earth," she told her assistant. "Contact the universities, the research stations, the private companies. I want everyone who has ever studied alien life working on this project within 24 hours. "What exactly are we working on, Dr. Kim?" Kim looked at her assistant with eyes that had gone cold and hard. "We're going to learn everything we can about these creatures, and then we're going to use that knowledge to destroy them." Around the world, the same scene was playing out in dozens of languages and hundreds of locations. Scientists, engineers, military officers, and government leaders were all asking the same questions. How do we find these aliens? How do we kill them? How do we make sure they can never do this again? The response was swift and unprecedented. Within 6 hours of the transmission's end, the United Earth Coalition had been dissolved and replaced with something new: the Human Defense Authority. Every nation on Earth contributed resources, personnel, and technology to a single goal. The HDA's first meeting was held in the emergency chambers beneath Geneva. Representatives from every major nation attended via secure connection. President Santos chaired the meeting, but the tone was set by General Webb's opening statement. "Ladies and gentlemen, we are now at war with an alien empire that thinks we are inferior beings, suitable only for extermination. They have murdered 9 million of our people and broadcast it to the galaxy as entertainment. Our response will be simple. We will find them and we will kill them all." The Chinese representative spoke first. "General Webb, we are prepared to contribute our entire space fleet to this effort. We also offer the services of our best weapons designers and our most advanced manufacturing facilities." The Russian representative nodded. "The Federation agrees. Our nuclear arsenal and our best scientists are at your disposal." One by one, every nation on Earth pledged their full support. The Americans offered their advanced computer systems and their best hackers. The Europeans provided their manufacturing capabilities and their research facilities. The Japanese contributed their robotics technology and their engineering expertise, but the most important contribution came from an unexpected source. Dr. Walsh, the communications expert who had first received the alien transmission, made a discovery that would change everything. "General Webb," Walsh said during the 2nd day of meetings, "I've been analyzing the technical aspects of the alien transmission. They made a mistake, and what kind of mistake? They used our own communication satellites to boost their signal. To do that, they had to hack into our systems. But when they did, our security programs automatically logged their access codes and traced their signal routing." Webb leaned forward. "Are you saying we can track them?" "Better than that, sir. I'm saying we know how to hack into their communication systems. If they can break into our networks, we can break into theirs. Within hours, Earth's best hackers and code breakers were working around the clock to penetrate Zephyrian communication networks. At the same time, weapons designers were creating new types of ammunition and energy weapons based on Dr. Kim's analysis of the alien transmission. The shipyards of Earth had never worked so fast. Every available facility was converted to military production. Civilian ships were retrofitted with weapons and armor. New vessels were designed specifically for fighting aliens. The entire planet had become a weapons factory. But perhaps the most significant change was in the humans themselves. The people of Earth had watched their species be humiliated and slaughtered for alien entertainment. The experience had changed them in ways that would take years to fully understand. Children stopped playing games about space exploration and started playing games about alien hunting. Scientists abandoned peaceful research projects to focus on weapons development. Artists created works of art that depicted human victory over alien enemies. Earth had become a world with a single purpose: vengeance. 3 weeks after the transmission, General Webb stood on the bridge of the newly launched battleship Retribution. It was the first ship designed specifically for fighting the Zephyrian Empire, built with new weapons and new defenses based on Dr. Kim's research. General, his communication officer reported, "We've successfully hacked into a Zephyrian military communication channel. We have their fleet positions and movement patterns." Webb looked out at the space around Earth. Hundreds of human ships were moving into formation, ready to begin humanity's first interstellar war. They were not explorers or traders or diplomats. They were killers, and they had a very specific target. "Set course for the nearest Zephyrian fleet position," Webb ordered. "It's time to teach these aliens what humans do to creatures that murder our people." The war for humanity's survival was about to begin. The hunt begins. The first Zephyrian patrol fleet was patrolling the Kepler system when they received an unusual reading on their sensors. 3 small objects were drifting in space near the binary stars. The objects were too small to be ships and too regular to be asteroids. Fleet Commander Zix-9 decided to investigate. "Bring us closer to those objects," Zix-9 ordered his crew. "They appear to be artificial constructs, but they are not showing any power signatures." The Zephyrian ships moved toward the drifting objects. They looked like pieces of broken spaceship hull, probably debris from some long-ago battle. It was common to find such wreckage in space, and sometimes it contained valuable technology or materials. "Commander," reported the sensor operator, "the objects appear to be escape pods from an unknown vessel. They show no signs of life, but their construction is unfamiliar." Zix-9 studied the readings. The escape pods were made from metals that the Zephyrian databases did not recognize. Their design was crude but functional. Whoever had built them was clearly a primitive species. "Collect the pods for analysis," Zix-9 ordered. "The science division will want to study the construction methods." What Zix-9 did not know was that the escape pods were actually human weapons. They had been designed by Dr. Kim's team based on captured Zephyrian technology. Each pod contained enough explosives to destroy a ship, but the explosives were hidden behind false hull plating that mimicked harmless debris. The Zephyrian ships extended their tractor beams and began pulling the pods into their cargo holds. The moment the pods were secured inside the ships, hidden timers activated. The humans had programmed a 30-second delay to make sure the pods were well inside the alien vessels. Commander Zix-9 was looking at his tactical display when his ship exploded. The blast destroyed the command center instantly, killing Zix-9 and his bridge crew before they could even understand what was happening. The other 2 ships in his patrol suffered the same fate. The explosions were visible from several light years away. But the most important part was not the destruction itself. It was the message beacon that activated after the ships were destroyed. The beacon broadcast on all Zephyrian military frequencies. Its message was simple: 9,008,999,997 remaining. General Webb received the report 12 hours later on board the Retribution. His communication officer handed him the decoded Zephyrian message traffic. "Sir, the aliens are very confused about what happened to their patrol fleet. They're sending investigation teams to search for survivors." Webb smiled grimly. "Good, let them send more ships. We have more surprises waiting." The destruction of Zix-9's patrol fleet was just the beginning. Across Zephyrian space, human ships began appearing like ghosts. They would strike without warning, destroy their targets, and disappear before reinforcements could arrive. Captain Lisa Rodriguez commanded a squadron of 5 human destroyers that had been modified for stealth operations. Her ships were coated with a new material that absorbed Zephyrian sensor beams, making them nearly invisible. Dr. Kim's team had developed the coating by studying the wreckage of Zephyrian communication equipment captured during the first attacks. Rodriguez's target was a Zephyrian supply convoy traveling through the Vega system. Intelligence reports indicated that the convoy was carrying weapons and ammunition to Zephyrian military bases in the outer sectors. All ships maintain stealth configuration, Rodriguez ordered over the secured communication channel. We'll let them pass the asteroid field, then hit them from behind. The Zephyrian convoy consisted of 6 large transport ships and 4 escort vessels. They were moving slowly through space, confident that no enemy ships could threaten them so deep in Imperial territory. The convoy commander had not even bothered to activate full sensor sweeps. Rodriguez waited until the convoy was perfectly positioned. All ships attack pattern Gamma. Target the escort vessels first, then the transports. Remember, we want prisoners from at least one ship. The human destroyers dropped their stealth screens and opened fire simultaneously. Their new plasma cannons, designed specifically to penetrate Zephyrian armor, tore through the escort vessels like paper. 3 of the escort ships exploded immediately. The 4th managed to send a distress signal before Rodriguez's flagship destroyed its communication array. The transport ships tried to run, but they were too slow and too heavily loaded. Rodriguez's squadron picked them off one by one, using precision shots to disable their engines without destroying the ships completely. When the battle was over, Rodriguez had 5 captured Zephyrian transports and several dozen alien prisoners. But more importantly, she had captured the convoy's entire cargo of advanced weapons and military equipment. Send the message, Rodriguez ordered. Her communication officer activated the beacon. 8,998,432 remaining. The captured equipment was invaluable. Human engineers studied every piece of Zephyrian technology, learning how their weapons worked, how their ships were built, and how their communication systems operated. Within weeks, human weapons became significantly more effective against Zephyrian defenses, but the most important discovery came from interrogating the captured aliens. Dr. Kim led the questioning personally, using her knowledge of Zephyrian biology to develop effective interrogation techniques. The aliens were surprisingly willing to talk once they realized they were facing extinction. They provided detailed information about Zephyrian military structures, fleet movements, and most importantly, the location of their homeworld. They call it Zephyr Prime, Dr. Kim reported to General Webb. It's located in the Andromeda Spiral, approximately 47 light-years from Earth. The planet is heavily defended, but it's the center of their entire empire. Webb studied the star charts that the prisoners had provided. How many ships are protecting it? According to our sources, at least 500 capital ships and several thousand smaller vessels. But General, there's something else you need to know. What? Dr. Kim showed him a recording of one of the interrogation sessions. On the screen, a captured Zephyrian was speaking in its clicking, glass-breaking language. Subtitles provided the translation. The human asks about our homeworld, the alien was saying. But humans do not understand. We are not afraid of humans. Humans are weak. Humans die easily. When our fleets reach the human homeworld, we will broadcast their deaths just as we did with the New Geneva colony. Webb's jaw tightened. They're planning to attack Earth? Yes, sir. According to multiple sources, the Zephyrian High Command has already authorized a major fleet movement toward human space. They're planning to make an example of Earth, just like they did with New Geneva. Webb stood up from his chair. How long do we have? Based on their fleet speeds and the distance involved, approximately 6 months. Webb activated his communication system and sent a priority message to every human ship in space. All vessels, this is General Webb. We have confirmation that the enemy is planning to attack Earth. Our mission parameters have changed. We are no longer conducting a war of revenge. We are fighting for the survival of our species. The message was clear. Humanity had 6 months to destroy the Zephyrian Empire before the Empire destroyed humanity. Across human space, ship captains received new orders. No more hit-and-run attacks. No more limited engagements. Every human vessel was to converge on Zephyr Prime for a final, decisive battle. Captain Rodriguez received her new orders while her squadron was refueling at a captured Zephyrian depot. She looked at the message twice to make sure she was reading it correctly. "Ma'am," her executive officer asked, "what are our orders?" Rodriguez looked out at the stars in the direction of Zephyr Prime. Somewhere out there, aliens were planning to broadcast the death of every human on Earth, just like they had done to New Geneva. "We're going to kill them all," Rodriguez said quietly. "Every last one of them." She activated her ship's communication system and broadcast to her squadron. "All ships, set course for Zephyr Prime. Maximum speed." Across the galaxy, similar scenes were playing out on hundreds of human ships. The hunt was over. Now came the killing. The message beacon that accompanied each human attack continued its countdown. 9 million. 8,800,000 remaining. But soon the humans knew the number would change. Soon they would be counting down the deaths of every Zephyrian in the galaxy. The aliens had started this war by broadcasting human deaths for entertainment. Humanity would end it by making sure no Zephyrian lived to be entertained ever again. The reckoning Emperor Keth Prime stood in the command center of his palace on Zephyr Prime, watching the tactical displays with growing concern. Red markers showed the positions of human fleets throughout Zephyrian space. Each marker represented ships that should not exist, carrying weapons that should not work, manned by creatures that should have been extinct. "How many fleets have we lost?" the Emperor asked his military advisor. 17, Your Imperial Majesty. The humans have destroyed or captured 134 of our ships in the past month alone. The Emperor's four arms moved in a gesture of frustration. For 300 years, the Zephyrian Empire had expanded without serious resistance. They had conquered or destroyed 67 different species. None of those species had ever fought back effectively. "These humans are different," the military advisor continued. "They do not fight like the other species we have encountered. They use tactics that appear to have no logic, but they are devastatingly effective." The Emperor turned to face his council. "Explain." "Your Majesty, we have studied human combat recordings. They sacrifice their own ships to destroy ours. They pretend to surrender, then explode their vessels when we move to capture them. They use their own destroyed ships as weapons, hiding explosives in the wreckage." Admiral Keth VII, the highest military commander in the Empire, stepped forward. "Your Majesty, the humans also demonstrate an unusual capacity for technological adaptation. They have somehow learned to duplicate our shield technology, our weapons systems, and our communication protocols. Our advantages are disappearing." The Emperor was quiet for a long moment. Finally, he spoke. "What do our allies say about this situation?" "That is problematic, Your Majesty. The crystalline hierarchy has withdrawn their fleets from our shared defense agreements. The Void Watchers have declared neutrality. The Silicon Collective is no longer answering our communications." The Emperor felt something he had never experienced before. Fear. Not for himself, but for his empire. The Zephyrians had ruled this sector of space for centuries because other species feared them. But now, other species were more afraid of humans than they were of Zephyrians. "Show me the tactical display of our home system," the Emperor ordered. The main screen displayed Zephyr Prime and its surrounding space. The planet was protected by a massive network of orbital defense platforms, shield generators, and automated weapon systems. 500 capital ships patrolled the system, with thousands of smaller vessels providing additional coverage. "Our defenses are impregnable," Admiral Keth VII said confidently. "No force in the galaxy could breach our home system's defenses." The Emperor was not so confident. 3 months ago, he would have agreed with his admiral. But 3 months ago, the Zephyrian Empire had not been at war with humans. His concern proved justified when the first human ships appeared at the edge of the system. Captain Rodriguez's destroyer squadron dropped out of hyperspace at the maximum sensor range of the Zephyrian defenses. She was not leading the main attack force. Her mission was reconnaissance and psychological warfare. "All ships, begin transmission," Rodriguez ordered. Her communication officer activated a signal that would reach every alien species in the sector. The message was simple but effective. "People of the galaxy, 3 months ago you watched the Zephyrian Empire murder 9 million humans for your entertainment. Today, you will watch us return the favor." The transmission was being broadcast on every frequency that intelligent species used for communication. Across dozens of worlds, millions of alien beings were tuning in to watch what would happen next. Rodriguez smiled grimly. The Zephyrians had taught humanity the power of broadcasting violence for political purposes. Now humans would use that same tactic against them. "Begin the demonstration," Rodriguez ordered. Her squadron moved toward the outer edge of the Zephyrian defense network. The enemy had placed automated weapon platforms in a wide ring around their home system. These platforms were designed to destroy any approaching fleet before it could reach the inner defenses. What the Zephyrians did not know was that human engineers had developed a new type of missile specifically designed to destroy their automated systems. Dr. Kim's team had learned from captured Zephyrian technology that their automated platforms had a critical weakness. They relied on a central control signal to coordinate their targeting. Rodriguez's ships launched a spread of specialized missiles toward the defense platforms. The missiles were not designed to explode. Instead, they carried powerful electronic warfare systems that jammed the control signals between the platforms. Within minutes, the automated defense network began malfunctioning. Platforms that should have been targeting human ships instead began targeting each other. The result was a spectacular display of explosions as the Zephyrian defense network destroyed itself. "Transmission to all alien species," Rodriguez announced. "This is what happens when you threaten humanity. We turn your own weapons against you." The demonstration was being watched by intelligence services on 43 different worlds. The message was clear. Human technology could neutralize Zephyrian defenses. The supposedly invincible empire was vulnerable, but Rodriguez's squadron was just the opening act. The main force was still approaching. General Webb commanded the largest fleet in human history from the bridge of the super battleship Vengeance. His force consisted of 800 ships of various sizes, all equipped with the newest human weapons and defenses. It represented every major vessel that humanity could spare for the attack. "General," his sensor officer reported, "we're detecting massive Zephyrian fleet movements throughout their home system. They're concentrating all available forces around their homeworld." Webb studied the tactical display. The Zephyrians had assembled an impressive defense force. Over 1,000 ships were moving into defensive positions around Zephyr Prime. It would be the largest space battle in galactic history. "Good," Webb said quietly. "I want them all in one place when we kill them." Dr. Kim was on the bridge of the Vengeance, serving as Webb's scientific advisor. She had spent months studying Zephyrian biology and technology, preparing for this moment. "General," she said, "our intelligence indicates that the Zephyrian command structure is highly centralized. If we can disrupt their communication systems, their fleet coordination will collapse. How do we do that?" Dr. Kim showed him a small device that looked like a metallic flower. "This is a communication virus, based on the same technology the Zephyrians use to hack our systems. When we transmit this code into their networks, it will spread throughout their entire communication grid." Webb took the device. "What will it do?" "It will translate every Zephyrian military command into random gibberish. Their ships will receive contradictory orders, false targeting data, and meaningless status reports. In effect, we will make it impossible for them to coordinate their defense." Webb activated his communication system. "All ships prepare for final approach. Remember, we are not just fighting for revenge. We are fighting to ensure that no alien species ever thinks they can murder humans for entertainment again." The human fleet moved toward Zephyr Prime like a vast metal storm. As they approached the inner system, the Zephyrian defenders opened fire. Space filled with energy beams, missiles, and explosive charges as the two fleets engaged each other. But the battle did not go as the Zephyrians expected. Dr. Kim's communication virus was already spreading through their networks, creating chaos in their command structure. Ships received orders to retreat when they should advance, to fire on allies instead of enemies, to disable their own defense systems. Admiral Keth 7 watched in horror as his carefully planned defense formations fell apart. "What is happening to our communication systems?" he demanded. "Unknown, Admiral. We are receiving conflicting orders from multiple command centers. Our ships do not know which orders to follow." Meanwhile, the human fleet pressed their attack with devastating efficiency. Their ships had been designed specifically for fighting Zephyrians, and their weapons were calibrated to penetrate alien armor and shields. More importantly, human commanders were not relying on complex coordination. They had been trained to fight independently, making their own tactical decisions without waiting for orders from above. Captain Rodriguez led her squadron in a suicidal attack on the main Zephyrian command ship. Her destroyers dove through the enemy formation, taking massive damage but inflicting even more. When her flagship's engines were disabled, she ordered her crew to abandon ship and then rammed the destroyer directly into the alien command vessel. The explosion destroyed both ships, but it also eliminated the primary command center for the Zephyrian defense fleet. With their admiral dead and their communication systems compromised, the remaining Zephyrian ships began to scatter. General Webb watched the battle from the Bridge of the Vengeance. Around him, his officers were reporting successful attacks throughout the system. Human forces had penetrated the inner defenses and were now engaging targets in orbit around Zephyr Prime itself. General, Dr. Kim reported, "We're detecting massive evacuation efforts on the planet's surface. The Zephyrian government appears to be attempting to flee." Webb activated his communication system and broadcast on all frequencies. "This is General Marcus Webb of the Human Defense Authority. To all Zephyrian, forth the new law." The surrender ceremony took place in the ruins of the Zephyrian Imperial Palace. General Webb stood in the same hall where Emperor Keth Prime had once received tributes from conquered species. Now the hall was filled with human soldiers, their weapons trained on the remaining members of the Zephyrian government. Emperor Keth Prime knelt before General Webb, his forearms bound with restraints made from human steel. Around him, the surviving members of his high command waited for their fate to be decided. They had ruled an empire that spanned dozens of star systems. Now they were prisoners of a species they had tried to exterminate. Dr. Kim stood beside General Webb, her scientific equipment recording every detail of the ceremony. The data would be valuable for understanding Zephyrian psychology and ensuring that their surrender was genuine, but more importantly, she was there to witness the end of the species that had murdered 9 million humans for entertainment. "Emperor Keth Prime," General Webb said formally, "you are charged with the murder of 9 million human beings. You are charged with broadcasting those murders to the galaxy as entertainment. You are charged with planning the complete extermination of the human species. How do you answer these charges?" The Emperor raised his triangular head to look at Webb. His black eyes showed no defiance, only the exhaustion of complete defeat. "I answer that the charges are accurate," the Emperor said in his clicking, glass-breaking voice. "The Zephyrian Empire did these things. I ordered these things. I accept full responsibility for the actions of my people." Webb nodded. "Your acceptance of responsibility is noted. However, the penalty for genocide is not negotiable. The Zephyrian Empire will cease to exist. Your military will be disbanded. Your government will be dissolved. Your people will be relocated to worlds where they can be monitored by human authorities." "And what of the Emperor himself?" Keth Prime asked. Webb was quiet for a moment. Then he activated his communication system, broadcasting to the entire galaxy on the same frequencies the Zephyrians had used to show the murder of New Geneva. "People of the galaxy," Webb began, 3 months ago, you watched the Zephyrian Empire execute 9 million humans for your entertainment. Today you watch the end of that empire and the beginning of a new age. On 47 different worlds, millions of alien beings were watching the broadcast. Intelligence services, government leaders, and ordinary citizens were all paying attention to what the humans would do next. "Emperor Keth Prime," Webb continued, "you will be executed for your crimes against humanity, but your death will serve a purpose beyond simple revenge. Your death will be a message to every species in the galaxy." Webb drew his sidearm, a weapon designed specifically for killing Zephyrians. "Let this be known throughout space. Any species that commits genocide will face the same fate as the Zephyrian Empire. Any species that broadcasts murder for entertainment will find human fleets at their borders. Any species that threatens the extinction of another will itself face extinction." The weapon fired once. Emperor Keth Prime died instantly, his body collapsing to the floor of his own throne room. Around him, his surviving commanders watched in silence, understanding that their empire had died with their ruler. But Webb was not finished. He turned to face the communication equipment that was broadcasting to the galaxy. This war began when the Zephyrian Empire decided that humans were inferior beings suitable only for extermination. It ends with the understanding that humanity will never again allow genocide to occur in our region of space. "We have appointed ourselves the guardians of civilized behavior among the stars. Dr. Kim stepped forward and activated her own communication device. I am Dr. Sarah Kim, representing the human scientific community. We have spent the past 3 months studying Zephyrian technology, biology, and psychology. We now understand their weaknesses completely. This knowledge is available to any species that wishes to defend itself against similar threats. The message was clear. Humans were not only capable of defeating advanced alien civilizations, they were willing to share that capability with others. The balance of power in the galaxy had permanently shifted. Over the following weeks, human fleets visited every world that had been allied with the Zephyrian Empire. They did not come as conquerors, but as judges. Each species was given a simple choice: accept human oversight of their military activities, or face the same fate as the Zephyrians. Captain Rodriguez, now promoted to admiral after her sacrifice at Zephyr Prime, led the delegation to the crystalline hierarchy homeworld. The crystalline beings had provided the Zephyrians with advanced weapons technology and had watched the New Geneva massacre without protest. We offer you a choice, Rodriguez told the Crystalline Council. Accept human monitoring of your military activities and agree to the Terran Accords, or face the consequences of your alliance with genocidal murderers. The crystalline beings had seen the destruction of the Zephyrian Empire. They had watched their former allies die in space battles they could not win. They chose to accept human terms. Similar scenes played out across the galaxy. The Void Watchers, the Silicon Collective, and dozens of other species all agreed to the same terms. Those who refused found human ships appearing in their home systems within days. The Terran Accords were signed in the former Zephyrian capital city, now renamed New Geneva, in honor of the murdered colonists. Representatives from 63 species attended the ceremony, though many came as conquered peoples rather than willing partners. Dr. Kim, now serving as humanity's first ambassador to the galaxy, read the terms of the accords to the assembled delegates. Article 1. No signatory species will engage in the systematic extermination of another intelligent species. The penalty for genocide is the complete destruction of the offending civilization. Article 2. No signatory species will broadcast violence against civilians for entertainment purposes. Such broadcasts will be considered acts of war against all civilized species. Article 3. All signatory species will maintain military forces sufficient for self-defense but will not engage in aggressive expansion without human approval. Article 4. The Human Defense Authority will maintain fleets throughout this region of space to monitor compliance with these accords. Human forces are authorized to use any means necessary to enforce these terms. The accords were not a treaty between equals. They were terms of surrender imposed by a species that had proven its willingness to commit complete genocide in response to threats. The alien delegates signed the documents because they understood the alternative. Admiral Webb, now Supreme Commander of Human Space Forces, established monitoring stations throughout the former Zephyrian territory. Human ships patrolled trade routes and communication networks, watching for signs of military buildup or aggressive behavior. But perhaps the most effective deterrent was the message that accompanied every human patrol. Broadcasting on all frequencies, human ships would transmit a simple reminder. The Human Defense Authority remembers the 9 million colonists of New Geneva. We remember every act of genocide committed in our region of space. We are watching. The galaxy had learned a new truth about humans. They were not just another spacefaring species seeking trade and exploration. They were a species that would sacrifice everything to protect their own people and punish those who threatened them. Years later, when alien children learned galactic history, they would study the Zephyrian War as the most important event of their era. They would learn about the species that had ruled through fear and murder, and about the species that had ended their rule through superior violence. But most importantly, they would learn the lesson that humans had taught the galaxy. Genocide was no longer an acceptable form of warfare. Any species that chose to exterminate others would find themselves facing extinction in return. The broadcast that was meant to demonstrate human weakness had instead revealed their greatest strength. When faced with the complete destruction of their people, humans did not despair or surrender. They became more dangerous than any species the galaxy had ever known. Emperor Keth Prime had intended to make humans an example for other species. Instead, he had made humans the example that other species would remember forever. The lesson was simple. Never underestimate a species that treats genocide as a personal insult, requiring personal vengeance. In the end, the Zephyrian Empire's greatest mistake was not in murdering 9 million humans. Their greatest mistake was in letting the rest of humanity watch. The age of easy conquest was over. The age of human law had begun. And across the galaxy, on worlds where beings had once cheered the deaths of inferior species, there was now only silence when humans appeared in their skies. They had learned that some species, when pushed beyond all limits, did not break. They evolved as, "You have 60 minutes to surrender you."